With the fantasy football regular season behind us, that means we can start looking at 2025 in Dynasty. Today, let's talk about 4 guys I think are major breakout candidates for next season. Starting at the quarterback position, I think Drake Maye is a really, really good pick to have a fantasy breakout in 2025, right? I could have gone with Caleb Williams as a Bears fan. I'm not going to do that. I think Drake Maye has more room to grow in fantasy than Caleb Williams might next season. The reason being, Drake Maye right now is working with nothing. He is working with, I think, hands down the worst wide receiver room in the NFL and just probably one of the worst skill position groups as a whole across the league. And that has not stopped Drake Maye from flashing talent. While he has not started the entire season, he's still already given you 3 QB1 finishes. And on top of that, if we just look at the rushing upside that he brings, and I think this is severely undervalued or at least understated across, more casual players, people that aren't digging into stats every single week. If you look at his 17 game pace, right? If we just extrapolated the games he started, he's on pace for over 600 rushing yards. That type of upside is exactly what you want to see. That is what gives him a legitimate top 10, top 7 type ceiling. Now, look, I don't think we get that next year because they need to make multiple additions to this offense. But there is clearly upside here. When you want to look at situation as to how it can change dramatically to give him a positive effect next season, there are a number of free agent wide receivers that are going to immediately be huge upgrades, right? The big one is obviously T. Higgins. He could re-sign with the Bengals, but it's tough to expect that given how much money they need to pay Jamar Chase, how much they have paid Joe Burrow. I don't care that he now has the same agent as Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is going to get paid somewhere. I think the Patriots are probably at the top of that list as a team that is ready to spend big to give their second-year quarterback a great weapon. But even if they miss out on T. Higgins, he's not the only guy that can benefit this roster. You have Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, Hollywood Brown. Are all of those guys as good as T. Higgins? No, none of them are. But they're already a massive, massive improvement over what they're working with today. And it's not going to stop there. There is no way they do not leave the first or second round without a wide receiver. Let's say they go wide receiver in the first, right? Tet McMillan, you have Luther Burden, you have Travis Hunter. There's a number of players that could, again, be massive upgrades here. And you don't even have to do it in the first round. If you look in the second, you can find productive players. Now, it didn't work out last year, right, with Jalen Polk, obviously, unfortunately. But there are success stories in the second round every single year. So they're not just limited to the top end of free agency or the first round of the NFL draft to find improvements throughout this skill position group. That is what's going to fuel Drake Maye. His skill set has already shown us he can be productive even in the worst of situations. Any improvement could lead to massive growth in not only NFL production, but fantasy production for Drake Maye. Looking at 3 wide receivers here, I want to start with a guy going into year 2, a guy going into year 3, and a guy going into year 4 as possible breakout candidates. I think the easy one here is Rome Odunze going into year 2. And yes, I'm a Bears fan, but I think most people can see the clear path to a breakout season for Rome Odunze. Right now, he came into a very, very busy skill set group. You have DJ Moore. You obviously have Keenan Allen who came in. You got Cole Kmet. You got DeAndre Swift. All of this helmed by a rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has not met expectations, which has also hampered what all of these skill players have done in this offense. But Rome Odunze has still found a way to have big games, to be a weapon in this offense and produce. Now, he's not having a monster rookie season. Nobody is going to tell you that. And if they do, that's just simply not true. But he's been productive and the underlying numbers are, I think, encouraging. Pulling in a 20% target share as a rookie, again, with these skill players around him, is not a small feat. You look for 17%. That's typically the area I would like to see rookie wide receivers to at least have a chance at giving you a wide receiver 1 finish in the future. Rome Odunze is well above that as a rookie, like I said, in a very, very busy group. Not only that, he's on pace for over 750 yards right now, and that may, kind of teeter back and forth the next couple of weeks here, but he's proven he can be productive. He's had a couple of monster games, right? You have 200-yard games. a 2-touchdown game and 2 games with over 20 points. So you've seen the flashes of greatness. And honestly, we can just go back one season to sort of look at a guy in a similar situation who is now having a massive breakout in year 2. JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, is almost the mirror image of Rome Odunze this season, right? Last year, JSN with Tyler Lockett, with DK Metcalf, with Shane Waldron in an offense in Seattle and did not meet expectations, was relatively underwhelming. Actually had a significantly lower target share than Rome Odunze, but a very similar yardage output. People sort of doubted if he could succeed in year 2 because Lockett stayed, DK Metcalf obviously was still there, and maybe it was just going to be more of the same. That's obviously not the case. One big part is Shane Waldron is gone, which I think is a huge positive for JSN. He's taken a step forward. Tyler Lockett has taken a step back. And I think that's a big piece because even if the Bears re-sign Keenan Allen, which is not out of the question, I don't think it's likely, but it's not out of the question, Rome Odunze can still have that breakout year in year 2. The Bears have already done step 1. They got rid of Shane Waldron. That's huge. And even if Keenan comes back healthy and re-signs for another year, he's another year older. Rome Odunze should take another step forward and sort of assert himself in this offense alongside DJ Moore as the 1A, 1B. So there's the path for Rome Odunze. I really like his chances at being a top 20 wide receiver next year with maybe a more traditional year 3 breakout into fantasy superstardom, hopefully, in year 3. Now, the breakout pick for a wide receiver going into year 3 in 2025 is actually Josh Downs. Now, he's obviously going to need some help. What the Colts do at quarterback in this offseason, whether they stick with Anthony Richardson, whether they, say, sign a guy like Jameis to back him up, basically Joe Flacco clone. If Anthony Richardson takes a step forward as a player, which, again, there is room for him to grow as a passer, obviously, then that's going to benefit Josh Downs. If they opt to go with a veteran under center over Anthony Richardson, I think that's better for Josh Downs as well. But basically, I think Josh Downs has everything else outside of quarterback play to say he could take a massive step forward in year 3. He already, I think, has kind of replaced Michael Pittman as the de facto 1A in this offense. And that feels crazy to say given how good Michael Pittman was last year, the extension he signed. But admittedly, if you look at the target share, it is in Josh Downs' favor. He is consistently open. The man is an unbelievable route runner, and he has produced in spurts even with Anthony Richardson. So Richardson being the guy isn't necessarily the end for Josh Downs. Now, I don't think it's helpful because if you look at what he's done with Anthony Richardson, under 11 points per game. However, he's also finished as a wide receiver 1 twice with Anthony Richardson. So those are the types of things at play here. I think the skill set is clear. It is obvious. People are continuing to sleep on Josh Downs because the situation may not be ideal. But good players can succeed in situations like this. And I think Josh Downs may be a great example of that in 2025. And my last pick here on a wide receiver going into year 4 for maybe a better fantasy breakout season is George Pickens. And if you've watched this channel, I like George Pickens as a rookie. We didn't see what we needed to see, or I didn't see what I needed to see. I was out on year 2. I was indifferent in year 3. And I think going into year 4, he is primed for a monster season. What he has done with Russell Wilson under center, the best passing quarterback he has played with, is turn into a borderline or a fringe wide receiver 1 in fantasy. If he had been playing with Russell Wilson all season, Russ was healthy, at the end of training camp, we're looking at a very different season for George Pickens. With Justin Fields under center, when he was the starter, right, the first 6 weeks of the season, he averaged 9.7 points per game. Flat out terrible. That is just the Justin Fields effect, I think. As soon as Russell Wilson took over, a switch flipped in that offense, in his playmaking ability, because Russ was just there to chuck balls deep to George Pickens, and he continually comes down with 50-50 balls. He's been really damn good at it this year. With Russell Wilson, his 17-game pace, 130 targets, 82 receptions, 1,379 yards, 8 touchdowns. And on top of that, he has the second highest target share of any wide receiver in that 2022 class this season. That's Chris Olave, that's Garrett Wilson, that's Drake London. That's guys taken way, way ahead of him that he is, sort of elfing in terms of market share and opportunity. So George Pickens is not done growing as a player. And if they bring back Russ, that's a huge piece here. If they bring back Russ, which I think they will, then George Pickens is set to deliver on that upside that I saw as a rookie and then kind of forgot about in year 2 and year 3. The end of season numbers will not tell the full picture. And you just got to hope people are sort of forgetting that Justin Fields kind of hampered the start of his season, and this hamstring injury at the end is going to hamper the end of it. But in the middle, that is what we care about. And that is the upside George Pickens has heading into year 4.